Couple of things with that. One is that, when you involve children in the changes of routine, they're more likely to want to follow them, and be motivated to do so. So let's say, if you start incorporating some healthier cooking recipes or baking recipes, I always encourage families to have the kids come on board and help, and add the ingredients. Maybe you can go shop for the ingredients together, things like that. And it does kind of help motivate as a family. Like, we are in this together. We're making these healthy changes, and why, and to go about it together as a team. There's a better success rate in following through and finding things that work for your family. Not everything's going to work for everyone, right?
Hey everybody, it's Lacey again. I'm here today with Shari Packard. She is going to share with us what she does to help people live their best lives and feel their best. And I can't wait to get to know her a little better and share what she's doing for the world with you all. Shari, if you wouldn't mind just giving us a little background, a history of where you've come from and where you are now and what exactly it is that you offer the world.
Okay, thank you, Lacey. So I'm a holistic nutrition and health coach. And holistic health, why I'm so passionate about it in essence, is because it really considers the whole person and how they interact with their environment.
Yeah.
So it's an emphasis on the body, mind, and soul. Yeah, the body, mind, and soul. And so when we're looking at holistic health, we're looking to help treat and heal the complete system rather than just individual parts, right? So it really does become this puzzle where you have to have all the pieces in place in order to feel your very best.
Yeah.
So
I love it. Well, so I'm just gonna point out to folks, we hear that word, that holistic term a lot, but I think we have to think about how that's different than regular just treatments or regular healthcare. Yeah. Because I think we're kind of in this society where it's very normal to have, an oncologist who deals with one thing, and then an ENT who deals with another thing, and then a dentist, and then, a foot doctor. I mean, we have a doctor for every piece of our body. But when you're talking about holistic healthcare, it's really bringing all those pieces together, and instead of isolating one piece out. And I think that's so important, and we need more of that. So that's really awesome. I love that. It is a puzzle. We are a puzzle, and our knee bone is connected to our leg bone, and it could all go hand in hand, right?
That's right. There is definitely truth to that song. We came from somewhere. And actually, it's really great that you pointed that out, because often in holistic health, that is the main difference to sort of more the westernized way of looking at medicine, is that I often hear from clients that they feel more like when they're being treated holistically is that they're being treated as a whole person, So it's almost, there's an added level of compassion to holistic treating versus regular medicine, because in regular medicine you are often, or most of the time actually, more than often, you really are looking at this problem or this problem. So you're going to a doctor, like you said, to specialize in your wherever your hurt is, the pain, the issue. But in holistic health, we look at every aspect of the person and say, how can all of these other areas that we wouldn't necessarily think could be contributing to the issue that they're having?
Yeah. And I have yet to meet somebody who has, for example, a heart issue that doesn't have some emotional maybe trigger that started maybe even a long time ago, maybe even before they were born. And it's hard to you just pinpoint the heart issue without talking about those other issues, those emotional needs, those spiritual needs. And we're never going to really fix the problem, right? So yeah, no, that's beautiful.
Exactly.
So how, Shari, did you become involved, or how did you end up in this line of work?
So I've been a student, an actual student of it for over 2 years now. But it started as a passion, and it began years and years and years ago. Before I had my kids, I was a preschool teacher, and I was catching everything that the kids had. So if the children brought in a virus, a cold, an infection, every stomach flu, it was basically guaranteed that I was going to come down with it. And this had been my story my entire life. As a child, I had extreme asthma. I was in and out of the hospital often. By 9 years old, I had my tonsils removed because I had so many issues of strep throat and throat infections. I was on antibiotics pretty often as a child, you could say. And so now, looking back, I understand why my immune system was so it was weak. It was definitely weakened over the years. And even with all of this, even with, catching all of these things and all these, and like being sick so often, I always sort of had this deep pull towards healthy eating. Didn't always practice it, unfortunately, but I did always have this pull. I did make that connection growing up that when I ate well, I felt better. And so as a young adult, and this all kind of happened, this was all before I was even in my 20s, all of these colds and infections. And I was also diagnosed with endometriosis at 16 years old.
Oh.
And so I had, many surgeries to remove cysts. And so all of these things, a lot of autoimmune issues, I started really looking at what I could be doing to help me feel better. Because I felt very anxious going to the doctors, and sort of, I always felt like I was always, relying on them to fix me. And, an operation would fix the issue for a while, but then the issue would reoccur. I'd have another cyst, or, the antibiotics would treat the throat infection, but then I would have another throat infection. And I didn't like that feeling of putting my well-being, my health in someone else's hands to fix, or, relying on a pill, it's kind of in that same category. And so I started just doing a little research. I started, looking things up. And the first article that I fell upon was one about a probiotic. And in this article, I read about how your gut is believed to be the center of our immune system.
Yeah.
Our immune systems are in our gut. And this was news to me. I didn't know that. And this was very intriguing to me. And I really read up a lot on it. And I went out and I got myself a probiotic and I started taking it. And it wasn't 2 weeks before I noticed a huge difference in my energy levels. By 3 or 4 weeks in, I wasn't catching what the kids were bringing in anymore. A couple of colds went by, a couple of viruses, even a stomach flu, and I was shocked. Like
Wow.
It didn't affect me. And so this really opened up my eyes. And I said, if a probiotic, just a probiotic, could do this, what else is there? And I started to feel really empowered. Like I was taking my health into my own hands for the first time ever. And so this is really where my journey began.
Yeah. Yeah, I know the feeling. And then you feel like obligated to make sure everyone else has that same sense of empowerment. I love it.
Well, that's it. Yeah. So as I started to incorporate these things into my own life and started to really see the healing that was taking place for myself, and really overall, because, the health issues I started to see how they connected to my, emotional things, and, maybe some things I thought I had dealt with, and some things that I knew I had not. And, you think out of sight, out of mind, you think you do, a really good job of pushing things away or deciding that you're not going to look at that and so it won't exist anymore. But that's not how we work. And so once I started to deal with all of this and to really set forth on my healing path, it really, really brought out this calling in me to want to help others do the same.
Yeah. Yeah. I love that. Okay. So we have talked a bit about this a little bit before our listeners jumped on, but we had talked about how you took that preschool experience and now you actually help teach kids about daily habits that keep them strong and healthy, I assume. What does that look like?
I do. So I began, this past year, I began teaching a healthy habits. It's an after-school program for kids at a local school here in our area. And it's about, introducing kids to that idea of the whole self and all the different areas of that. We do this through a lot of fun activities, some art, some reading. We do some mindfulness work. It's really about introducing them to it. The kids right now that I teach are in grade 1, so they're about 6 years old, 6 and 7. But this is really an area that I would like to explore further with my career and with the expertise that I'm acquiring, because I really do believe that that's where it begins. If we can teach children the idea of the whole self and how they can be empowered in their own health and overall well-being, I think we would see a huge difference worldwide in our nutrition and our overall health. So
yeah, it's interesting because I think about my own kids, and they're pretty empowered. They can take care of their health in a pretty powerful way. But one thing that still, as a mom, one of the first things we do when a kid gets hurt is we grab a Band-Aid, right? And we put a Band-Aid over that and kind of teach them like, okay, let's hide that. and,
Yeah.
and if you don't see it, maybe it won't hurt you anymore. Like, and it's kind of one of those things where we have to be able to show them this is your body working. And I think what you're doing is really beautiful and supporting just a fundamental. If we can help our children, like that's so powerful. So I love that.
Thank you. I've actually lived it in that very personally in the last year. My oldest son, who just turned 10, was diagnosed with type 1 diabetes last year.
Oh, wow.
And it was tough to swallow at first.
Yeah.
And really getting to a place now, where we've had time to digest it all and to take in all of the medical information, and now that I have that medical information, I was also able to go and take my holistic knowledge and sort of find a way to put them together.
Yeah.
And empower him and also empower us and find that balance, because there's a balance to be found. So, I mean, while he does take his insulin on a daily basis, he also does have a holistic plan in place that myself, along with a friend and colleague, nutritionist, has helped me put into place for him. We've worked together on this. And so he, while he takes his insulin every morning, he also has a raw celery juice every morning, because studies show that raw celery juice, for instance, can help strengthen the pancreas. So, it's been this journey for us personally as well. And I see that when he understands the way his body works, and I believe that this will just help him understand that much more. By the time he's an adult, I think he's going to be on that track of really understanding how one area affects the other, and he's also anxious. So when his anxieties are high, his blood sugar readings are high. And so, that to me is just it's a direct proof of exactly how we work. And for him to understand this at the age of 10 is just, I think it's going to be instrumental for him.
Absolutely.
As he grows up.
Yeah, no, I love that. All right. So Shari, who would you say your ideal client is?
Well, I see clients of all ages, from children to adults. I love working with families as well. Coming from I have a busy young family of my own, and I understand firsthand how hard it is to implement, really good routines when you're constantly on the go between work and school and children activities,
right.
Busy weekends. So I really love coaching. Some of my favorite times are coaching families and helping them just kind of get a really good routine in place,
Yeah, I love this. Recently, I've adopted the idea that our family is a team, and they really respond to that when things are not going well or somebody is not helping the team. And I'll say, we're working together. You have this role to play. I have this role to play. We're all working together as a team. And I think when a family takes on a challenge like this together, in changing their daily routine and changing their habits, it can be so much more powerful than like just a parent trying to do it themselves. So I love that idea of working with a family so that they can all do better and feel better together, because one person doing it on their own in a family, it's like all that pressure of the family eating cake or donuts, or you know what I mean? It's hard to do it alone in a family.
Yeah. And then, a couple of things with that. One is that, when you involve children in the changes of routine, they're more likely to want to follow them, and be motivated to do so. So let's say, if you start incorporating some healthier cooking recipes or baking recipes, I always encourage families to have the kids come on board and help, and add the ingredients. Maybe you can go shop for the ingredients together, things like that. And it does kind of help motivate as a family, like we are in this together, we're making these healthy changes, and why, and to go about it together as a team, there's a better success rate in following through and finding things that work for your family. Not everything's going to work for everyone, right? And there's no one size fits all diet or a way of life. We're all very, very different, and as families we're different as well. So there's ways to tweak different holistic habits and practices. There's ways to tweak them for the adults in the family and the kids in the family. But this, sometimes I encounter this idea that, people think like, oh my gosh, if I want to start changing habits, like, where do I start? Do I start with myself? Do I start with my kids? Do I start with, how, and it just seems very overwhelming. And that's why I love, seeing a family as a whole, because we can work together and, there's things that everybody can be doing. And so it doesn't seem overwhelming.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, it's funny. This just occurred to me. When you're thinking of a family as a team, then a family needs, or a team needs a coach too, right? So there you go.
Right. I like that. That's really good.
Um,
Very true.
okay. So what would you say to somebody maybe who was a little bit skeptical about maybe the potential for seeing change through doing these simpler things? I mean, you mentioned probiotics. It's such a simple thing. Like,
Right.
people will be like, that's not going to change my life, or they might have a preconceived notion about how unhealthy they are and how much work that's going to take. I don't know. What are your thoughts on somebody who might feel that way?
So when I meet with clients, it's usually how I begin actually is that, I get an overview. I mean, I want to hear about the specific issues that brought the client to me in the first place, but I want to get a good picture of their overall life, because from there I get, especially when they're feeling very skeptical, I like to get a quick overall view, because then I can kind of pinpoint, what small change are we going to begin with? I never, ever suggest that we just totally revamp the diet and, as of tomorrow, this entire list of foods are going to be thrown in the garbage because you're not touching those anymore. We're going to, it's about small changes, and it's about making one addition to their diet or lifestyle, depending on where we're going to begin, just adding a one change, not removing anything. And so I find that when we go about it that way, people are more likely to, if I'm just adding something and you want me to take a probiotic, and I don't have to be skeptical about it. I can just, I don't have to like it or think it's going to work. If I'm just adding a probiotic to my morning, it's a little bit more doable than, kind of coming up with this huge plan right off the bat. Right?
It is easier to add something in than to take it away. I think you're right about that, for sure.
Yes, and the idea, and I've had several clients come back to me and say, like, that was, I was like a little skeptical at first, because like all you're doing is adding. I mean, with one client, stands out specifically is I just had them add more glasses of water to their day. So 3 glasses of water. I said, make it, first we started with 1 and we went up to 3. And she was like, okay, I'll add another glass of water. Like, I'm not sure. But I kept about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks in, I remember getting an email from her that said, this is ridiculous. Like, for the extra glasses of water I have, I don't want that Coca-Cola that I would drink at lunchtime. And I've since dropped that. And then I've dropped a cup of coffee, and I'm adding more, now I'm up to 4 glasses or 5 glasses. And so, you wouldn't think, but one small change.
Yeah, I love that. That's awesome.
Just changing the momentum.
Yes. So before we get to the last question I'm going to ask you, I would love for you to share what you have to offer our listeners. I know you have a little freebie to offer for them to go ahead and get started on this journey.
Yes. Well, I'm inviting your listeners to contact me through my email or on Instagram with a health question. And if they mention this podcast, our conversation here, I will give them an in-depth response. In essence, it's a first session at no cost.
I love it. Okay, that's awesome. So people reach out, get that consult, take advantage. And then lastly, Shari, what is one thing that you do on a regular basis, maybe with your family, maybe on your own, just to feel your best? One simple little thing that you do to stay feeling your healthiest.
So I'm going to have to, there are many things that I've incorporated into my life that I am so thankful and grateful to have found. But the one that I'm going to go with here is meditation. And meditation, I know it's a big one for a lot of people, and it's a very intimidating idea. It was for me for many years. I resisted. I had heard about it. It kind of kept calling my name, but I was very resistant to it. But I think it's a thing that I can say has made the most difference for me emotionally and my emotional well-being. And there's a lot of great guided meditations, and I highly suggest starting with a guided meditation online where, you're sort of being guided to what you should be thinking, what you should be doing in the time, and it's helpful. And it's, it's something that I've introduced to my children, and they do it as well sometimes. And it's been instrumental to me.
Yeah, we've done it a few times, especially recently as a family together when we're, tensions are high or whatever. I mean, obviously we've got a lot going on in the world right now, and just a 3-minute meditation. They'll be like, they won't want to do it at first, and then we'll be done, and they'll be like, oh, it's over already.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
it is. You can feel an instant. It's amazing. You can feel an instant change in the energy of the room. And like you said, just the 3-minute meditation.
Yeah.
So
Doesn't have to be 30 minutes or an hour.
no, not at all. Not at all.
Well, thank you, Shari, so much for joining us. I can't wait to share this
Thank
with
you.
folks.
My pleasure.
And I hope to connect with you more in the future.
Yes.
Have a great day.
Thanks. You too.